Welcome to Space Socket. A 46-year-old divorced woman speaks on women's insecurities, but Kevin Samuels turns the spotlight back on her. Let's dive in.
She's like, I hate him. I hate him. I hate his whole face.
You are
Uh,
so silly. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. My name is Trinity, by the way.
All right, your channel starts with what?
Watch
Oh,
the
why?
space.
Oh, okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
how old are you?
46.
So, what are we talking about? We were talking about
I
social
want to do
class.
social class.
Go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, I like social class. I don't disagree with anything that you say, nor do I
Uh,
disagree with your delivery, because, like you said, I have the same mentality. I say what I say with my intentions,
mm
and how you interpret it has nothing to do with me. You know,
Are you married?
I was.
Okay. Because it says wives, men
Yeah,
prefer. Okay.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
I was married, but I'm
So,
not anymore.
so what
Not
are we
by
what
choice.
what are we talking about as far as social class? What do you got on it?
Well, I see that there's some resistance in accepting where you are. Like for the women that call your show, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have this idea that they can move from here to there in, like what you say, a Thanos snap.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realize that, one, it's a process and it doesn't start at 30, thinking that you're going to get what the 23-year-old is going to get and what the 24-year-olds are going to get. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have children on top of that. You understand? And
Mm-hmm.
I understand where it's stated that accountability is like kryptonite, but
Mm-hmm.
um the way I see it is that there's like a great thing with cognitive dissonance. Like they are incapable of actually receiving the information that you're trying to express.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they are into their feelings. And with the cognitive dissonance, it's because of their feelings that their mind is rejecting the information that you're giving them.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love the idea that, okay, fine, you can't get to them, so you're going to use them as a learning tool, which is what I always do.
Well, yeah, I do that
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, it's not about proving somebody wrong. It's about having a conversation because what we had so long is this echo chamber. This
Yes.
echo chamber to where it's always the men, the women don't really have to look at themselves, and and the women can just do what they want, and that's just not fair to guys.
No.
Most people don't want to. Most people don't want to deal with where they are because they don't like being limited. Let me do this real quick. Um, this person keeps using my videos. I'll see you in court, Miss Love. You don't have my permission to be using my videos like that. I don't know why you think you can just go do what you want to do. You out of your mind. So, social class. Why is it so bad? Why do people think like it's so bad to just be locked into their level?
I don't think they like where they are. And
Okay.
they are placing their self-worth on
Mm-hmm.
things that are outside of them. And in this case, it just happens to be the caliber of man that they think that they can attract, without realizing that, like, relationships are in fact reflective, because there is the law of attraction, like the law of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they don't understand that. So they think that, okay, this is what I've noticed. When a woman is saying that she wants a man with a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
What she's really expressing is that she has a sense of, a sense of lack of security within her, for whatever the reasons may be,
Mm-hmm.
and this lack of security is now placed outside of her.
Mm-hmm.
And with this being the case, she cannot process the idea alone that she may not measure up, because that idea of not measuring up, what says to her is that she's not good enough. And all her life she's been told she's good enough, she's all of that. All she has to do is A, B, C, and D, and then you'll get E, F, and G. And then when
Mm-hmm.
she has done all of that and realizes that she cannot get those things going that route, instead of accepting that route as a loss, and as opposed to saying, I'm starting from, I'm starting all over again, saying I'm starting from experience. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they have this idea that because they pick the way that they pick, that the men that they desire should choose them
Mm-hmm.
because of their poor decision making, without understanding that just like they have a preference, we all have a preference. And
Mm-hmm.
neither one of our preferences should have to forego for someone else's presence, especially
Well,
when you know your worth.
here's the thing. Women have been told they can have everything at the same time. And men understand life is about choices and trade-offs.
Mm-hmm.
And men accept, this is what I have to buy. This is inside my budget. And even though I may want this, this is what I got. Women have been told that I want that. And even though my income, my competence, my whatever is this, I can find another way to get it.
And I'm sorry to cut you off. And I think that's why there are more women in debt with credit than there are
Mm-hmm.
with men in debt with credit.
So
Because
cool.
women, like you said, feel that they can have it all right now. So even if they don't measure up and stand in caliber, the same
Mm-hmm.
way they don't measure up in the money, in the
Mm-hmm.
currency, they charge it.
Right. Well, I don't. And here's the thing: I don't care about men. Don't care about that so much as that women just um, women continue to when they don't get what it is they feel they deserve. They're blaming men.
Hmm.
It's like, well, like the last caller, everything was never really on her. It's not my choice. It's always, I can shift accountability and blame. And I don't get it. And it only hurts our community. Let me go ahead and bring somebody else in. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Hello,
Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm gay,
How old are you?
23.
23. Okay. So you have a question or are we going to talk about the topic?
No, I'm Colombian. Hello?
Yeah, you're Colombian. How are you?
Yes, and I just wanted to, yeah, I do kind of have a question. So, I do have a lot of Black American friends.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Females and males. And I always hear the male complaining about, yeah, we out of North America because women ain't treating us right. Women are so tall. They don't want to be feminine. They think they're too independent. Like all of them, most of the Black men I know that are living in Colombia are telling me the same reason. But I also have like female friends that tells me a lot that they really can't just afford being with a woman who is independent. So obviously I do kind of hear both of the side, but I'm very curious.
Okay. How old are you?
That's already
23?
20.
Okay. So you got men saying that women are too independent and that's why we're leaving. And you got women saying, oh, these men are too broke to afford or don't make enough money to afford a woman.
Yeah.
What does your gut tell you? Does your gut tell you that the men are more accurate about what's really going on, or the women are more accurate about what's really going on?
Honestly, is I never been in United States. I do have a lot of American friends, but it's really difficult for me to like believe just out of people's opinion. Like, yes,
Okay, okay, but okay, you're in Colombia, right?
yes, but
So let's
also, oh, sorry to interrupt you, but also I know sometimes they will say things like, "Oh, yeah, only because they." I know Latinas are very sexualized, but also Latinas are allowed to. They have an attitude, and they kind of sassy
well,
sometimes.
everybody has something, but let's stay on the topic of Are the men lying or are the women lying? Are the men exaggerating or the women exaggerating?
Okay.
Um, if the measure of a man being able to afford a wife is a woman being a stay-at-home mother and never having to work, then that only means 10% of men can afford to get married. That's so are those women willing to share their men? See, women are saying that the reason we won't submit or the reason we can't be feminine is because men today don't make enough money for us to not work. Okay, well, if that's the case, why don't these women get with guys who can afford to do that? Can they get the kind of men they say they need? Do they look the part? Are they in shape? Are they feminine? Are they
But
childless?
they also talking about the inability to be with a woman who is too independent. Like,
Well, see that, but my question is, the women talk about the men that they don't want, but what do they say about the men they do want? Can they get those men?
yeah, that makes sense.
Right. See, what women do is they talk about the men that they don't want to justify why they're alone. See, women who can get the kind of men that they want don't worry about what men that they don't want are doing. Doesn't that seem like it takes a lot of effort to complain about? I mean, it's like going to a restaurant and you're a vegetarian. You don't spend your time looking at the dishes with meat in them. It's a waste of time. You don't even eat that. You're like, you don't complain about how the steak is cooked. What do you care if they have filet or prime rib? You're a vegetarian.
Right.
All right, but that's how these women talk about men, as if that's the only thing on the menu because they can't get the kind of men they want. Now, the men say that the women are too masculine, too independent. Well, if you have a restaurant and you want to stay in business and grow your business, you have to give the people who are paying, buying your product, what they want. Would you not agree?
Yeah.
Men purchase marriage. If men are saying you're not what we want, what are your options? Give them what they want, be by yourself, or go get a woman. Those are the three options, right?
Yeah.
So on one hand, you got a consumer saying the product doesn't meet my standards. Give me a better product and I'll buy it. That's the men. On the other hand, you got women are complaining about something that's on the menu that they say they don't eat, but yet they can't, but they're not ordering a vegetarian anything. In short, the women are full of shit. They're the problem.
Okay, so what about when they come here to Colombia, especially to
Mhm.
Colombia? They come and look for a wife, the woman of their dream who is very submissive, feminine, that can cook for them and be like a family woman. Okay, Latinas are kind of like that, right? But they come here, they still be playing, like, let's say they find a nice woman who is able to do all the things he's looking for, but they still come in here playing. And I've seen it. So it's like, why?
Well, okay, hold on. Again, just like I can pull up countless men who go there and meet their wives. Colombia, Thailand. So what are we judging on? I mean, it's like women always talk about the problem. And whatever consumes your thoughts controls your life. Why do you hear women talking about when do you hear women talking about relationships in positive, hopeful terms?
Well, my circle of friends, they do.
I said women in general. Okay, how would you like to date one of those sour women?
Yeah, it's
So
complicated.
you can't automatically assume why you're basically saying that if these men find this woman, then they're playing. Well, Okay, sure. I'm sure that happens, but that's an oversimplification. I tend to find more guys that when they go down there, they come back and they bring their woman with them, they marry them. But do you hear women in the West talking about relationships in positive ways? Who has the, and here's the thing, you know, you're a woman. Women tend to try to stay on code with other women. At the end of the day, men are the consumers. You got to give men what they want. Do you think women are giving men what they want?
It really depends on many cultures, but I guess it's not like that all over the
Well, let me ask you this question. If women gave men what the men said they wanted, do you think men would marry the women?
Oh, don't ask me that.
No, no, no. I'm going to ask you that question because it's going to make you have to be honest. If the women were giving the men what they want, would the men marry the woman or would the man choose to stay out here and be single?
Most of the time, they will marry the woman, but
That's all we need to know. That's it. There's no but. See, that even diehard woman has come over here in this country and say, yeah, if we gave you what you wanted, you'd marry us. There's always a but. There's no but. There's an end of sentence. Give us what we want or buy a dog and die alone. Because these women you're talking about are in the top 10% of earners. They cannot afford to be single. They don't make enough money to have a life from here to the end. See, that's what we don't talk about. We talk about marriage and relationships with middle income women as if they have another option. If a woman does not get married, okay, and she has no children, when she reaches retirement age, who's going to pay for all that? What she saved up, right? What she saved or what she's invested, right? That's all she's going to have. When she can't work anymore, what happens when they run out of money and have no kids and no family? Ladies, we are your reason. We're your lifeline. And these governments have divorced you from us because you don't need us for your protection because you have fire, police, all these other things to make you feel like you're safe. We don't need us for food, so you can go to the grocery store, restaurant, so you don't really feel like you need us for provision. Now you're picking men based upon want until you're no longer hot enough to choose. Look at the women 55 years old. Look at the women 50 years old and older. Do you see many 50-year-old single happy women? Thank you. That's the future. That's the future. And on conversely, there are a lot of men over the age of 40 who are single and ecstatic. So, did I answer your question?
yeah.
All
Thank you.
right. All right. See,
All right, let's break this down clearly. A 46-year-old divorced woman calling out other women's insecurities might sound insightful at first, but it also opens the door to examine her own situation. Because when you're speaking on patterns, you're not outside of them. You're part of the same environment. This is where Kevin Samuels would step in with a reality check, because pointing out insecurities in others doesn't automatically mean you've resolved your own. In fact, sometimes it can be a way of redirecting attention away from personal accountability. The issue here isn't that insecurities exist. They do, on all sides. The issue is whether someone is aware of how those insecurities have influenced their own decisions, relationships, and outcomes over time. Because without that self-awareness, the same patterns tend to repeat. At 46, divorced, there's a long track record of experiences. And those experiences should bring clarity. What worked, what didn't, and what needs to change moving forward. But if the focus stays outward instead of inward, that growth gets delayed.